everyone, I'm Kelsey from Just Sew, and I'm going to introduce you to your new block of the week that we are doing. I'm going to show you the pattern. We're super excited for you to get your kit soon. This is from the Garden Star sampler made by Sherry McConnell, A Quilting Life. And we're using the fabric in this block of the week using Memoirs by Three Sisters from Moda. So I hope you guys like the selection. We're super happy with it. I wanted to talk you through a few tools that I think you'll find helpful throughout this process, and then talk you a bit through the pattern, some tips for reading the pattern, as well as what's going to come in your kit every week. Okay, so first things first, I wanted to talk you through my basic quilting tools that I like to use for basically any project. I have my mat, I have a ruler. This one is a 2.5 by 12 inch ruler from Creative Grid, so it has that kind of friction on the other side so it doesn't slip around. I really like this. It's perfect for this size block that you're going to be making. My rotary cutter, my little snippers, my friction pen. You can really use anything that's either water soluble or comes up with an iron, something like that. This one comes off with heat, so it's iron off. That'll be helpful for making your flying geese blocks and your half square triangle blocks. And then I have my shears, my pins, and I have 2 feet that I switch between this whole project. So my machine came with what's called a J foot, and I'm not sure what type of machine that you have, but it's just your normal presser foot, whatever came with your machine. And you're going to use this for any of your diagonal seams, so like their flying geese or half square triangles, things like that. And then the other one that I find super helpful is my 1/4 inch foot. And this is what I use when I'm using a 1/4 inch seam to put pieces together. So instead of going diagonally from one point to the other across a flat piece of fabric, I use this J foot. And then if I'm putting 2 pieces of fabric together using a 1/4 inch seam, I like to use this foot. So I switch between both of them the whole time. I keep whichever one I'm not using kind of right here in the throat of my machine while I have the other one on. So easily accessible. The other one is, I really like this ruler. It's 6 inches long. This short side is exactly 1 inch. And then if you can see, those 2 parallel black lines are exactly 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. So it's a really great ruler to check your seam allowances with. And it's also nice and short, so I use it to draw my diagonal lines for my half square triangles. Speaking of half square triangles, one of my favorite rulers for working with them is the Block Lock ruler. I have 2 different sizes, and you're going to be using this a lot in this quilt, and I found it particularly helpful with the Ohio Star block. And this one uses a 1/4 square triangle, which is similar to a half square triangle, but you'll see when you look at the pattern, you kind of sew 2 half square triangles together and it makes it a 1/4 square triangle, if I'm saying that correctly. And I tried to trim it using just a 4.5 inch regular ruler, and it turned out really wonky and I had to redo it. And then I trimmed it with a Block Lock and it was perfect. So the way that the Block Lock ruler works is, you can see it kind of has this ditch in here. And if you iron your half square triangle seams to one side, usually the dark side, this ditch kind of sits right on top of that seam, and it locks it in there, Block Lock. And this is a 4.5 inch square ruler, and it's really nice. You just slip it on there. You don't have to like worry about measuring it up. It just slips diagonally on that seam, and you true those 2 sides, and you flip it around and you true the other 2 sides. So it's super helpful. I have 2 sizes. This one's 6.5 inches, which you don't necessarily need for this project. You could still use it for this project if you wanted to get a bigger one because you think it might be helpful in the future. But if you just want it for this quilt or for smaller half square triangles, then the 4.5 inch one works great. You also want to make sure that you have a close by ironing station because you're going to want to iron after every seam. So I like to use these wool mats. We have a couple different sizes at the shop, and it's really handy. You can see I have mine right here, right next to me, so I can sew and they'll come right over here. And it pairs nicely with this mini iron. And if you want some starch, and I like to use this spray bottle because it sprays it super evenly over the whole fabric. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what's going to come in your kit every week, and as well as a little walkthrough of the pattern and what you can expect when reading it. Okay, so in your first kit, you're going to be getting your pattern, which is the Garden Star Sampler Pattern by A Quilting Life. And then in every kit for all 6 weeks, you're going to be getting a little insert that tells you what block you're going to be making. You're making 2 of the same block, but there are different fabrics for each one. So this is going to tell you on the side which fabrics you use for what part of the block. And it has labeled here block 1 and block 2, which corresponds with the actual packaging of the kit, which says either block 1 or block 2. But as far as the pattern goes, each week you're going to be getting 2 of the same type of block. So this is week 1 is both the Sawtooth Star. And the way that this one goes is that every week is going to get a little harder. So this is the easiest block. You can see the middle is just a big square with flying geese on all the sides. And as we keep going, it's going to get a little bit more complicated, but the nice thing about this quilt is it never gets too hard. So I found this pattern super easy to work with and read. I just wanted to talk you through a little bit about what you can expect. Okay, so we have here the cutting instructions, and for each block we're making the 12-inch blocks. And you can see the name over here, New England Star block, Sawtooth Star is what's coming in week 1. And it'll tell you from the print fabrics, you want 1 square that's 6.5 by 6.5, and 8 squares that's 3.5 by 3.5. And you can see on the little insert that we give you that this is what you cut your 3.5-inch squares out of, and this is what you cut your 6.5-inch square out of. So we don't cut the individual pieces for you, but we give you just the right amount of fabric to cut these pieces from. So you're going to follow this for your cutting instructions, and then your background. The background is going to be the same for every block. It's like a cream with little red flowers on it. It's super cute. So that's what you're going to cut from your background fabric. And then we have more cutting instructions back here. The sashing is all going to come with your last kit. So week 6 is when you're going to get a bigger box with all of your sashings and everything. So don't worry about that for now. And then you have your individual instructions on how to make a half square triangle. You can look at this. She has a video linked here in case you would like that. You have your half square triangle and your flying geese. So you have instructions for both of those. Now you have your instructions for making a 1/4 square triangle, which is used in the Ohio Star block, and the 3 triangle square unit, which is used in one of the pinwheel blocks. So these are the 2 that when I was making this kit, this sample, this was actually new to me. So I learned from this, and it was very easy to figure out from their instructions. So hopefully you don't have any problems. And then, like I said, week 6 is when you're going to dive into the sashing, so you don't really need to bother with this part yet. Then we get into the actual block assembly. So we have 6 different types of blocks, and you're making 2 of each, which will give you 12 blocks final, 12 blocks finished. So you have your Sawtooth Star block, which is this one. So you're just going to read these instructions with the corresponding kit that we send you. So you have your New England Star, and then this is a little like your sample to know which one it is to make sure that you have the right one. The one thing that I will say could be confusing is that there's 2 that have the word pinwheel in it. So over here, you can see we have a pinwheel star, which has a big pinwheel in the middle, and then the 4 corners are all different. And then this one is the Sawtooth pinwheel star. And this one has a smaller pinwheel in it, and its corners are just solid blocks. And so we're going to make sure that when we give you the kit for those 2 weeks, you'll be able to tell which pinwheel we're talking about. It will say Sawtooth pinwheel star or pinwheel star, so make sure you don't get those confused. And then we have also our patchwork Sawtooth Star. You're going to get a 4x4-inch square of 12 different types of fabric because it's supposed to look kind of patchy, if you see here. And so it's up to you, your layout. You can make them both look the exact same and lay out all the fabrics in the same way for both squares, for both blocks, or you can kind of, what I did was I kind of randomized it for both, so they're still a little bit different. But you're going to be using 4 of those for the center, and then all the other ones, the 8 others for the points to make your flying geese out of. And then you have your Ohio Star and your New England Star and your Sawtooth Star, all pretty self-explanatory, so I hope you don't have any issues with those. I find these instructions very helpful and easy to understand. But like I said, you're making a bunch of, for the pinwheels and the Ohio Star specifically, as well as the New England Star, you're going to be making some half square triangles that I find the Block Lock ruler to be super helpful with truing those squares up. One thing I wanted to let you know about real quick is I did find one error, which on week 6 when you're putting your sashings together, I will add a note so that you know. And maybe I'm missing something, so if you guys think that I'm wrong, then please let me know. But I did read over the instructions to make the 9-patch post a few times, and it seems like they don't have you cut quite enough. So it tells you for the post to cut 2 strips, and I found that you actually need 3, so that's the red here. And so I just wanted to let you know you might have to cut 1 extra of the post if you find that you're coming up short a little bit. So we'll make sure we give you enough fabric for 3 of those strips. Alright, and that's all I have for you guys in this video. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to contact@justsewstudio.com. Thanks for joining me in my at-home sewing studio. We're quarantined at home right now, so I'm doing a lot of sewing, getting some new projects ready for you guys, so make sure you look out for those. So excited that you guys are joining us along for our block of the week. I hope you really enjoy it. I had a lot of fun making this one, and I hope this video was helpful.